you've had a pretty crazy career trajectory over the past couple of years, especially. What's that been like for you? I mean, I don't want to say you came out of nowhere because you've been a part of Ring of Honor and stuff, but your profile has just shot through the roof of late.
Yeah, it's been pretty good, man. I think I've improved some maybe, but largely I'm doing a lot of the same things I have been doing, this whole time, and just in the past year or so, really picked up a lot of recognition. This has been really cool, you know what I mean, to get that exposure, out there.
How does one prepare to do a moonsault with his hands tied?
I don't know. I just thought it would be cool. I didn't prepare is probably the thing. I climbed up there and realized, like, this is really kind of stupid. I was wearing cowboy boots and had my, hands duct taped together. So I realized it was kind of dumb when I got up there. But I know you just do it. Sometimes you just do it.
So how were you brought into Ring of Honor? How did that situation first go down?
Well, when I was, I might have been 18 or 19. I was wrestling then. I started when I was 15 or 16, actually. I started when I was 16. So at about 18 or 19, I, saw these advertisements for the Ring of Honor, camps. And two of my friends that I had started training with, the Bravado brothers, they had moved up to Philadelphia and they were training, at the school there. So I knew it was something, interesting, something I wanted to do, something that could help me a lot. So, I went to one of those camps then, and then I went to another one about a year or so later. And I guess I had just improved upon the things that they had, told me to improve upon in that year. So then I, started getting these dark matches and, really short TV matches and stuff like that, and just slowly worked my way up from there, I guess.
I'll kind of get the same type of experience from you. Like how did you find out, or how did you end up in New Japan? Obviously, there's the sister relationship sort of between Ring of Honor and New Japan, the working relationship. But how did you find out that would be a thing that you'd be doing moving forward?
Yeah, I had no idea that was going to be something that I was going to be doing. It was something that I certainly hoped to do one day. You know what I mean? I didn't expect to be going and doing that stuff when I ended up doing it. I guess when, Ring of Honor decided they wanted Bullet Club in Ring of Honor, and, they were going to have not a separate entity, but, kind of a representation there. And they had the Young Bucks and had Adam Cole, but it just 3 people wasn't enough. So I was kind of, the 4th guy in that equation. And then it just made sense. Well, all right, if he's joining Bullet Club, then he'll go to New Japan and he'll work with Bullet Club there. So it's kind of how that came about. I got a phone call one night, and that phone call was, hey, you're joining Bullet Club, and you're going to work for New Japan. Your first tour is this summer. It's 3 weeks. So it was a heck of a surprise. It was a good one.
At the same time, that, as you mentioned, that was around the time you joined Bullet Club. That's got to be just like such a shift in your career, moving from just not being in the Bullet Club to being in Bullet Club, because we've seen the type of thing that it facilitates, like being the elite and the invasion, all that, not to mention just the demand of appearances and things like that. Like, did that increase your schedule? What kind of changes did that make when you were added into Bullet Club?
Yeah, it changed a lot for me, honestly. I started working with New Japan, so I would have tours and stuff there, so obviously I got a bit busier there. I had never wrestled outside of the country before, other than, like a trip to Toronto, and we do that for Ring of Honor. So that was pretty insane for me. At the time, I was a high school teacher living in Virginia, and I was wrestling, with Ring of Honor and, other indie companies and stuff, just weekends. I would do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and be back home teaching on Monday. And it was exhausting. So getting to join Bullet Club, really for me, I guess in my personal life, that was the point at which I kind of determined, okay, I'm able to make enough money, and I'm able to be busy enough to just wrestle as my career. And that's what I've been doing the past year and a half now, I guess. And
we're seeing that more and more. Like Cody Rhodes is a fantastic example of people who don't need WWE in order to make a full-time living, and we're seeing that out of a lot of the Bullet Club guys. We're seeing the Young Bucks who are making a ton of money. Do you see that? Like, is that a bubble that you think is going to burst anytime soon? Because we're seeing more and more people just walk away or say, no thanks, we'll stick here.
I don't think it's really a bubble that's going to burst as much as it's just a wave that ebbs and flows. I think wrestling has always gone through, peaks of popularity and back down again, and it cycles back around. Obviously, right now we're in a peak time, which is great, and I'm hoping that this peak time is, not a peak that will eventually return to the status quo, but it's one that's changing the status quo. Because I think, we live in a time that it's very easy to not just accept what's handed to you on TV every week. It's very easy to, find out what else is out there. And if there's something you like better, to then support that, instead or in addition to what you already support. So I kind of hope that this is, less of a bubble that's going to burst, but something that's maybe changing wrestling as a whole, you know what I mean? And should we cycle back down to a less popular time in wrestling, I hope that there's still tons of guys like there are now making a living wrestling outside of the machine.
We had talked a little bit about New Japan earlier. Where do you see that partnership between Ring of Honor and New Japan going as New Japan increases their own personal North American presence? We saw their G1 special in July. They're probably coming back in, I think, spring. Do you think that will, at any time, like Ring of Honor will kind of be like, do you think it will cause a rift? Do you think it will strengthen the relationship? How do you think that plays out?
I'm not quite sure. I really don't expect, any kind of rift, especially not anytime soon. These things, move so slow, I guess, when you really think about it. I think really it's a good working partnership, and we're able to, American fans are able to see people like me and Cody and the Young Bucks. We're more visible here in the U.S. working with Ring of Honor. So when we go to Japan, there are a lot more American eyes on New Japan. There are a lot more American eyes on New Japan World. And, if you look at the growth of the New Japan World subscriptions, a lot of the growth in America, you could attribute it, not just to American guys, but a lot of it is, that's where they get their fans from is, they learn about Bullet Club, us, whoever, and then they start watching New Japan too. So I think it's a good working relationship, and it works both ways. When you're here in America, you might only see it one way or the other. But if you really think about it, it does work for both companies, I think, perfectly well.
So you're an integral part of the Being the Elite series, and I talked about things that will shift and change your career. Well, that's had to have done something, because I can tell you whenever we embed one of those videos on our site, it does great. Like it's the point to where I'll tell like my editor, hey, anytime they put one up, let's embed it because it does really well. And that's not something that you see a lot of outside of WWE. We've seen like Zack Ryder have really good success with his own show, but this has exploded. What's that been like?
It's been nuts, and it's definitely been. I've probably got the most exposure and the most, most over, I guess, from even just being in the background of the scene on Being the Elite. It's been ridiculous, and once I started kind of using it as part of the show, that just exploded more for me. It's nuts, and I think fans love it. First of all, they love the Young Bucks. They love what they do in wrestling, and, when you have a favorite wrestler or whatever it might be, you want to find out more about them. You want to, kind of connect with them on that personal level, and that's what Being the Elite is. And, there's a lot of skits and stuff like that, but even the skits is just us joking around. You know what I mean? And fans, I think, love being able to see that, and we love being able to, kind of give that to the world. And it's been great.
You get the positive and the negative, because there's always negative about anything. Does any of that bother you? Do you let it just slide? Because, I see it even, and I'm not involved in it. So, I'm sure you have to see it as well.
Oh, yeah. You're not really doing much of anything. You're not making much of an impact unless someone is criticizing you. And the more critical stuff you get, feedback you get, in addition to the love that you get, then you know you're doing something. You may be changing something. You're ruffling feathers. And you can't let it bother you. You know what I mean? I try not to let it bother me. I'll get some mean tweets every now and then. But, I ignore them. It's fine. It's just somebody else who knows who I am.
Did you expect the invasion situation to gain such a polarizing reaction? Because I remember the night of, like, before you all released the episode, everybody was like, oh, they're ripping off DX. They're ripping off DX. And then the video comes out, and they're like, oh.
Right. Maybe I didn't expect it to get quite as polarized of a reaction, but I think, the people who had a negative reaction to it don't follow us. They don't really know anything about being the Elite or the Young Bucks or Cody or what we're doing now. You know what I mean? And they don't get it. It's like a joke that, either you get the joke or you don't get the joke. And if you don't get it, I can understand why you think it was stupid. But this wasn't for the world at large. This was for ourselves, really, just to make ourselves laugh, and for the people who've been following the show and following us for this long. And that's who it was for. And those people enjoyed it, so we're happy.
That's always the thing I see, like when people criticize the Young Bucks, they'll say they don't sell, they just super kick, they're indie Hardy Boy ripoffs, and I was like, well, then you don't get it. And I was like, if it has to be explained to you, then there's no fun in it, I'm sure. Like, that's part of it.
Yes, exactly.
So, your buddy, former buddy, maybe current buddy again, Jimmy Jacobs, he's kind of reemerged on the scene in part due to that situation. I love the integration of that. I spoke with Ian Riccaboni a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about how important the integrating being the Elite storylines has been and how you all just weave everything in and out. This was, you all kind of double dipped there. You were able to capitalize off of a newsworthy situation that you guys created in the first place, put something on pay-per-view in Jimmy Jacobs showing up, then run it on being the Elite as well. How far before that do you all find out, like, okay, we're going to put Jimmy Jacobs on all this after all that's happened?
Yeah, it's pretty fly-by-night type of stuff. We usually don't have much of a plan until the day of, you know what I mean? I'm not sure at what point someone pulled strings somewhere to get Jimmy Jacobs to the building. But once he's there, that day, that afternoon of the pay-per-view, we didn't know exactly what we were going to do, but he's here. We're figuring out that the day of. So, that was my suggestion to have, we're going to take a selfie at the end of we had done, a 4-day tour there. We're going to take a selfie at the end, and nobody had a camera, and Jimmy be the guy to do it. Which was perfectly fitting. But yeah, all that kind of stuff has been real fly by night, and we're really glad to, have Jimmy there and do something with him because he's, I think he's at different parts of our career has always been a great friend to all of us. I worked with him when I kind of, my first few years in Ring of Honor in the decade. He's a creative genius, and he helped me through, a lot getting started there in Ring of Honor. So we were glad to have him.
And from a character perspective, do you think Hangman Page would rather be side by side with Jimmy Jacobs or across the ring from him? Because you've been plenty. Like I remember Glory by Honor, and you worked against him and Whitmer at a set of TV tapings, and even on the I think 13th anniversary show, you all tagged together.
Right. I would revel in either. You know what I mean? Jimmy is a creative genius. So to work against a creative genius is a challenge, which it helps. But working with one is also a challenge. You know what I mean? But probably I'd say same side of the ring.
What was your opinion on how that unfolded, that situation with Jimmy Jacobs and WWE?
I'll be honest, it wasn't surprising to me because, we were there poking the bear and an employee of the company, came out and, was friendly with and took a picture with and posted a picture with the people who were there to poke the bear. So I wasn't surprised. I knew, when he came out and said hello, I thought that was dangerous in itself. And then he took a picture and I thought, well, okay, fine, just don't post it anywhere. Certainly we agreed we wouldn't retweet it or, we wouldn't post the footage of him coming up to us just because we weren't going to get him in trouble. but that was in his own hands, and I'm sure he knew what he was doing. So I regret that had to happen, but I think he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he seems pretty happy as of now. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm really excited to see because it's a unique time in pro wrestling right now. So before we wrap up, I know that Ring of Honor is about to kick off another leg of their tour. What has the schedule increased for you as it pertains to Ring of Honor as well? Like I said, you've reached a higher profile. You're an important part of this show. What has that meant for your schedule personally?
Yeah, I want to put over these dates coming up. We've got Florida dates, not this weekend, but the following weekend, and Lakeland and Fort Lauderdale. Those should be awesome. Kenny Omega will be there. We've got Texas dates. I actually won't be at the Texas dates due to a bit of a scheduling conflict, but those should be great. San Antonio in particular should be fantastic. The rest of them as well. I know they're doing Oklahoma, I think, that weekend too. So
yes.
Check those out. But yeah, the schedule, I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I don't know, but I do know my perception of it. It seems like we're running a lot more, and maybe it's just because in earlier points in my career I wasn't on all of the shows, but now I'm on all of them. And maybe at different points in my career I wasn't as busy on those show days, and now every show day is just a literal from the time I get out of the bed in the morning until if I get to go to sleep until then is just nonstop, just pandemonium. But it seems like the schedule has picked up a ton, which is good news for everybody. There's more work.
Yeah, you all are in New York on December 15th for Final Battle. Philadelphia the following night for TV taping, so that's going to be, I'm sure, big for you guys. Final Battle always is. Tell people where they can follow you on social media.
For sure, yeah. Final Battle, that New York and Philadelphia, that should be great. That's going to wrap up the year for us. We'll be able to be home with our families for Christmas, which is great. And we always thank the fans for supporting us, with Ring of Honor so that we can have a career that allows us, that time at home with our families at Christmas. For social media, I am on Twitter at the Adam Page. I am on Instagram. I don't know the Instagram handle. I'll be honest with you. I haven't used it in a while. I every couple of months just post a random photo of something totally non-related to wrestling, and I'm pretty sure no one believes it's actually my real account, but it's out there somewhere. If you find it, it's really me. I have a website. It's AdamPageWrestling.com. I have some of my own merchandise and stuff on there, and also I have links to my T-shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees, which is ProWrestlingTees.com/Adam Page. And I believe that's all my social particulars.
Yeah, I saw that on your website they can get everything from like ring-worn gear to T-shirts to 8x10s. So definitely go check. And those bandanas too. I mean, those are a no-brainer to market.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I just put them up the other day. I haven't even tweeted about them yet. I had the tweet ready. I had a crazy family emergency day yesterday, so I never really got to send the tweet out. So they're on my website. I haven't even promoted them yet, so I'll get to that this week.